You'll be particularly aware of the phrase, it's coming home. Now, what would it mean to you guys to stop it coming home tomorrow night?
Has it ever been home?
Hello everyone, welcome to Monday's video. I hope you're all well. And yes, those were the words at the very start of our soon-to-be new goalkeeper, Kasper Schmeichel. Yes, we very much appear to have found a new number one, and barring any last-minute hitches, he should be announced at some stage this week. But we've got far more important things to talk about, everyone. And sincere apologies to any English Celtic fans watching. You know I love you all, but last night was a pretty good night to be Scottish. Pretty good morning actually for me here. If I'm looking like I haven't slept, it's because I actually haven't. Was up watching Wimbledon, and then pretty much soon after that, a couple of hours after that, went off to a pub in Melbourne that was filled with around 2,000 English people to watch the Euro final against Spain. And listen, things get very good for a small amount of time. But that joy didn't last too long. So yeah, England fell short again, and speaking personally, and I guess a lot of you will be the same, now somehow over the last 3 years managed to survive two England Euros finals as well as Rangers in the Europa League final. All three of those finals have gone our way, and I think we're capable of anything at this stage. I think, Spain were the deserved winners last night, the better team. I think over the course of the competition, they were the best team as well. I saw this tweet from Michael Cox saying that Spain had beaten the two finalists from the previous Euros. Italy and England had also beaten the top two European teams from the last World Cup, France and Croatia, as well as the hosts of this Euros, Germany. So deserved winners for sure. And an alright Euros is over, and we can now look forward to the real stuff starting less than 3 weeks now until we go for it against Kilmarnock in our league opener. Copa America, by the way, that was won by Argentina. Late goal, late in extra time from Lautaro Martinez got them a 1-0 win over Colombia. So Spain and Argentina, and Scotland, and I guess Ireland and maybe Australia as well, the big winners last night. But yeah, we move forward to that game against Kilmarnock, and it seems like we'll be doing that with a new goalkeeper. He's not a particularly young goalkeeper, and maybe that's one aspect of this deal that has not gone down too well with some Celtic fans. However, I do think that he may... don't know what I'm doing. He may actually fill the void left by Joe Hart in more than one way. But I'll come on to that. It is Kasper Schmeichel, and it seems very much like this move is going to be happening. There's been reports over the past couple of days now. I think Fabrizio Romano's kind of been leading it, as he tends to do. And it seems very much like... Kasper Schmeichel is going to be coming to the club. The chat is that he'll be given a 1-year contract with the option for a further year. That's not certain. It may be a bit different. That's just what's been reported. We're also hearing that Schmeichel will have a medical on Tuesday or Wednesday. I know the team fly out to the USA on Tuesday, so you'd think Celtic would want to get it done maybe today or tomorrow and get him on that plane. So maybe an announcement will be pretty soon with that one. And if you were just wondering, is this deal in doubt? Is it going to happen? Check out his famous father, Peter Schmeichel, and a not so subtle hint with his choice of tie while doing coverage of last night's England-Spain game in the US. At this point, I just want to mention that I am very much hoping to do a bit of a deep dive into Kasper Schmeichel on tomorrow's video. Hopefully speaking to a familiar face as well. Who could that be? You'll have to wait and find out tomorrow. Hoping that happens. I did, I think I said kind of early in the summer that I felt like you would, when we got the definitive report on our next goalkeeper, we would know very quickly, and I think that became clear the minute people saw the tweet. And it kind of came out the blue from Fabrizio Romano, very similar to the Joe Hart stuff a few years ago from memory. I know Kasper Schmeichel's name had been mentioned a bit in the summer, and Brendan Rodgers was even asked directly about him after the Ayr United friendly. But I think we all kind of felt that it probably wasn't going to be a goer. But obviously when that report came out from, or that tweet came out from Romano and a few other sources, it became pretty obvious that it is going to be Kasper Schmeichel. So you're likely to know him from two places. Denmark being the first. He's been their goalkeeper for years and years, has over 100 caps. Leicester City as well. He spent 11 years there, left them in the summer of 2022. You're probably aware of all the stuff he achieved with Leicester, won the league title famously, won the FA Cup under Brendan Rodgers. They got to the semi-final of the Europa Conference League, I think in his last season at the club as well. When he left them, he went to Nice in France, spent a year there, and then had last season 1 year with Belgian side Anderlecht. So that's what he's been up to for the past couple of years, and why you've probably not heard of him as much. He's 37 years old, which, as I say, is kind of one of the big things people are bringing up, rightly or wrongly, about this deal. Does he still have it? Is he past it? Well, he was Denmark's goalkeeper at Euro 2024. And I think he did pretty well. I seem to remember him doing quite well against Germany. I think that was maybe the only Denmark game I actually sat and watched sober. And I think he did pretty well in that game, even though they went out. So he would very much seem to still have it. And as I say, 37 years old, he could, give us a couple of years. I think that's, pretty doable from his point of view. Now, I get the whole criticism and the frustration that, many Celtic fans are feeling about, what does this move for a 37-year-old say about our recruitment team, and the fact this feels like a bit of a stopgap signing for a position that we've known has needed filled since, I think, late February when Joe Hart announced his retirement. I totally kind of get how that looks, and I think for any other position, I would, certainly feel that a lot more. Like, for example, if and I don't want to give the Celtic board ideas or the recruitment team ideas here, but if Matt O'Reilly was to depart, for example, and then we brought in a 37-year-old in that position, I think that would be really kind of a bit concerning. I think Kasper Schmeichel might do pretty well with Celtic, and you even look at the kind of goalkeepers we've had over the past 15 years or so, and I think generally, Barkas, De Vries aside, the first choice goalkeepers that we've signed have done pretty well. Even the ones that have done pretty well, you've tended to only get a maximum of 4 years. I think Boric was 4 years. Fraser Forster was less than 4 years. I think Craig Gordon as our number one was maybe 4 years. Joe Hart was obviously 3. So the argument is that even if you go younger with the likes of Forster and Boric at the time, and they do really well, you're probably only going to get a maximum of 4 years, probably even less these days with the lure of the English Premier League and all of that stuff. So as much as, getting a younger guy in and hoping for, almost hoping to kind of build the team from that point and have a settled guy who can take the team forward for a number of years, the reality is it probably isn't going to work like that anymore, and the kind of shelf life of a Celtic number one is probably about 3 years these days, like we saw with Joe Hart. And, Kasper Schmeichel, as we're saying, it looks like a year contract with the option of an additional year. potentially, a third year as well if things go really well. But I certainly think 2 years is pretty conceivable from his point of view, from Celtic's point of view. And I think the positives for me massively outweigh the negatives. I can't necessarily think of many negatives about Schmeichel himself. The big question would be, does he still have it? Is he coming to Celtic for a retirement type thing? But I really think you look at his personality, and without knowing, so much about him from the various things I've seen over the years, he certainly strikes me as a pretty similar character to Joe Hart, and I know those two have been pretty close throughout their career as well, so there's no doubt Schmeichel will have spoken to Hart about Celtic. But you look at what Hart brought to us over the 3 years he spent, and he was obviously a very good goalkeeper who made big saves. But I think with Hart, it was almost the intangibles a lot of the time as well, and it was the impact he had on the dressing room, and the ability to work with the captain, Callum McGregor, to drive standards and to always know that at Celtic you need to keep winning, and to have the experience to kind of lead the team forward in difficult moments, and have those years of experience to kind of fall back on. And I think Kasper Schmeichel has that exact same thing going on that Joe Hart did. I think they're extremely similar goalkeepers of the same age, and I think Schmeichel will just take to Celtic in the same way that Joe Hart did. I could be wrong, I have been wrong in the past, but I just get that impression that he's going to come in to Celtic and really, really embrace it like Joe Hart did. And I think he's a really good goalkeeper as well. You can have your debate over whether he's had a better career than Joe Hart. I'd say, from the outside, they're pretty similar. But I think when you look at what left the club when Joe Hart left, I think we'll be replacing a fair bit of it with Kasper Schmeichel. And I think it's a very clever move. And obviously we've got the added bonus of him having worked with Brendan Rodgers in the past, so knowing, about how Rodgers likes to do things. And obviously Rodgers knowing exactly what Schmeichel's going to bring to the club. So and it's an obvious Rodgers signing as well, which I think is something a lot of us have been calling out for after last season, when he seemed to kind of be supplied a lot of players, and he was basically just told, work with this, and obviously a lot of them he didn't fancy. This signing has Rodgers, fingerprints all over it, and I think sometimes you'd maybe worry about that in the past with Brendan Rodgers, but I think with someone proven like Kasper Schmeichel, this looks like a pretty good signing for me. But I'm sure you'll let me know your thoughts in the comments as well. We're hoping that he'll be on the plane that jets out to the United States on Tuesday. One player who won't be on the plane is Hyeongyu Oh. He is signed for Belgian side Genk for a reported £4.5 million, which I think is pretty decent. Now, I always quite liked Oh. I think he'll go on and have a pretty good career elsewhere. Judging from some of the replies I got to a tweet I put out yesterday, I'm not sure that's the general consensus amongst the Celtic support. I think people feel that he got his chance and didn't show up. Perhaps. I think one thing I would say is that Adam Ida coming in January made far more of an impact than O had the previous season or last season. And he kind of showed exactly what a second choice forward should bring to Celtic, and was kind of more ready to really give us the big moments. All the big moments he gave us, leading us to the double last season. I do think that O still gave us some big moments last season and the year before, and just generally in his time at the club, a lot of kind of big goals there. And I do feel people, I don't know, I think people, I got replies yesterday, people calling him a total dud and a failure of a footballer and all of that stuff, and I think that's extremely harsh. I think he'll go on to have a pretty good career, and I hope he does, because he's a pretty likeable guy. But it's obviously not going to be at Celtic. As I say, £4.5 million, pretty much double what we paid for him 18 months ago. It's good business from the club. We add it to the Adam Ida pot, as one of the guys I met out in Germany wanted to trademark that kind of phrase. So yeah, 4.5 million added to the Adam Ida pot, and maybe you get some for Mikey Johnson or whatever, and you just kind of build up that fee we want to pay for Ida. And I think there's no doubt Ida, is more suited to Celtic at the moment, and crucially is more fancied than Brendan Rodgers. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'll always kind of remember Oh relatively fondly. I don't think every signing has to be an absolute success. I don't think you would look at the signing of O as being a failure. I think, he scored some big goals for us, always applied himself pretty well. And I do think if he'd been given, more opportunities, I think he would have, shown up even more for us. But yeah, maybe the fact he didn't get more opportunities said a lot. So we've had O leave, Rocco Vata, Sead Haksabanovic, they've all left permanently so far this summer. Joe Hart obviously too. Marco Tilio has gone out on loan. So we've shifted a number of players so far. We're still waiting on getting our first player in. We've got just over 6 weeks, I think, to go of the transfer window. So yeah, hopefully Kasper Schmeichel is in this week. Ida, Bernardo, get them in, and then we can look at the other positions. But I sense it's going to go right up to the deadline. Finally, this is what our new away kit will look like this season. This comes from the reliable Footy headlines, so we can expect this to be unveiled relatively soon. I'd have liked it a wee bit of a darker yellow. I think some of the early images that we saw, it looked like a darker yellow, so I'm still holding out a little bit of hope. I think even if it is that colour that you see there, I think it's pretty good. I'm assuming we'll be looking at green shorts, yellow socks as well, as is the custom with these things. We've not had a yellow kit in a number of years, so I think that will look pretty good this year. And yeah, that's really your lot for now. Celtic next in action Sunday. It's actually really Saturday night for you people up in Europe. I think it's 12:30 kickoff, so half an hour after midnight, Saturday going into Sunday. DC United were playing, so things should start to click into gear. Surely we're going to get a signing this week, and yeah, we'll maybe speak a bit about that tomorrow.